Hey everyone, and welcome to today's episode. If anyone comes into the chat room and has any questions, feel free to ask the questions. I'll answer them. But today I'm just going to be talking about developing a sense of self-discipline. As an INTP, I think it's pretty important to be disciplined, and I think that as introverted thinkers, and really all IPs that I've ever worked with, um, can find ways to become disciplined. I think that we hold ourselves back a lot from doing it because in order to become disciplined, you need to become a disciple of something. And as somebody who is very independent, introverted thinker, what I have found is that I hesitate to put my learning in somebody else's hands. So what I am doing is I have joined a jujitsu gym, and I want to just kind of tell you what I am going to be taking away from jujitsu that will help me develop a sense of self-discipline. For anyone who wants to know, I have actually done combat sports since I was a little kid. And what I want to go into today is why I gave up combat sports in my early 20s, because I do think that while discipline is important, that you also need to understand that if you are becoming disciplined, you are most likely going to have to um, ignore some of the external factors that happen on a day-to-day basis. Actually, even when I joined this gym, the coach gave me the rundown and he said, you have to be here every day. Even if other things are coming up, you have to figure out how to move those. So when I was about 20 years old, I completely gave up combat sports in order to open up my company. And it actually, for what my goal was at the time, it did help a lot. But then at some point, I realized, like, actually more recently, probably even when I got into type, I realized that there was more to myself than just running companies. And I had to start figuring out, hey, how am I going to focus on myself more? I had reached my goals in business, and it was time to, if I wanted to continue progressing through life and making changes in my own life, then what I really had to do was figure out how am I going to be able to work on myself, where I can really get in touch with my own thoughts. Because really, I do think when I was running my company, I was using a lot of my own extroverted and intuiting processes, and I did look highly like an extrovert, actually. I was going to school. I was learning all the stuff that I had to do for construction. I was learning how to run a company, organize people. And, as an introverted thinker, I think as an INTP, I think that's really necessary. It's part of going into the shadow. But at the same time, we have to understand that our natural disposition for something means that you can only sustain that for so long without going into your natural preferences. Now, I've talked to a lot of introverted perceivers in general, and a lot do hope to get into jujitsu from what I've heard. So I kind of just want to share that. But I want to also right now just talk about how my early days of combat sports, for me, it was wrestling, and I did some Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu earlier after I got out of high school. How these things actually helped me better myself in business. Because to me, if you want to be excellent in anything, you have to be excellent within yourself first. And right now, I'm starting a new excellence journey. I think that, like, up to the age of 25, I lived a life of excellence where I understood I had to work on myself first before I could make an impact in the outer world. So I do think that joining something like a jiu-jitsu gym allows you to really work on yourself without having to think about it so much. If you have a preference for thinking, then you want to be sure that you are intentional about where you are using your thoughts. So for me, having a coach that taught me wrestling and a coach who taught me jujitsu, I didn't have to think about that so much. And it also gave me the foundation to understand that I can overcome things. It gave me a level of self-awareness where when I did reach 25 and I realized, hey, I used to have these qualities about myself that I don't have anymore because I've been focusing so much on another area of my life, I was able to actually realize that, hey, I can make changes. I do see that a lot of 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds hold themselves back from making changes. And going back to my early days in high school, I realized most people didn't have the dedication in their 20s who realize this, that they didn't develop that self-awareness, that's discipline, the self-esteem. They can begin doing this by putting themselves into a situation where they give up the control. I think when we hold ourselves back is because we want the control. And we have to understand that in order to improve, we need to take ourselves out of that control position. We need to, and actually, just so everybody knows, when I do start talking more about excellence, a key to excellence is to enter into new environments dispassionately in order to understand the logic of what you are entering into. With jiu-jitsu, I find that there's not only the how many days a week should I train, how do I take care of my body in between training and things like that. So there's a lot of logic to go into. So just hiring a coach and allowing him to tell me what I should be learning is the first key to starting to get disciplined. So that's just something something I want to make sure you guys understand, that towards achieving level of excellence, you have to start with a foundation. And that foundation is most likely going to have to be given to you from somebody else. Now, I do think that, and what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to give you some of the keys to getting started, because I do think as introverted thinkers, I said we have trouble getting started. I think there's actually reasons for it. I think we look at the logistics of starting a lot, and we realize how much can actually have to go into that. That was a problem for myself. I have joined a jiu-jitsu gym several different times, and I did quit several different times for specific reasons. So joining this time, I actually took an inventory, I evaluated my own situation, and I decided what kind of changes I would have to make to change it. And so far, it's worked out better than it has any time throughout my 20s. So when I give you more of the practical tips, you're going to see like some of the things that you can start thinking about to make your journey into discipline and excellence a lot easier, because it is very hard. Being disciplined means that you are going to follow the rules of somebody else. You're going to understand the norms that are expected within the environment that you are entering into. And there's a lot of things that contradict introverted perception, dominant function, so FI or TI, that you almost have to give into. And what I'm talking about is you have to get into your shadow, and you have to find ways to do it that don't fully contradict your dominant function. So, so here's what I'm going to do. I also want you guys to know that I'm going to be on, as part of my own discipline, practice, and excellence, not only going to be going to the gym, to the jiu-jitsu gym in the morning, I'm also going to be making it a thing that I come on to YouTube more regularly. And I've tried this before, and for some reason I hesitate after the second or third or fourth day. And I'm going to become more self-disciplined and allow myself to come on here and talk the way I need to, share the notes that I before or the morning of, or even presentations that I've shared yet. Actually, what happened that made me realize I needed a level of discipline was I realized that I wasn't committed, that were controlling that, and I decided, hey, I need to find a place, a time of day every single day to really allow myself to focus inwards. But I guess my connection is unstable, which doesn't really make sense. I have like great internet here. Oh, it's stable again. Okay. So now I'm just going to get into the practical tips if you're choosing to get into some organization that will provide you a practice of discipline, then here's some things that you want to make sure that you set up that will make it easier to arrive at your destination daily, and really get yourself in the mindset of being disciplined. Because if you are getting disciplined, you want that to carry over into other things you do, and you want it to last throughout your whole day. The reason I chose jiu-jitsu is because I think it's an intense way of becoming disciplined. All the actions that are taken one session of jujitsu are going to impact the rest of my day. And so you want to set it up so that that can happen. So the first thing that I recommend you do if you want to become disciplined, if you join a jujitsu gym or anything else that you're choosing to do, the first thing that you really want to do is make sure that you start early. I actually had to go to several different gyms in order to find a gym that would allow me to roll around at 6 o'clock in the morning and have people there to roll around. My old gym actually didn't have people there in the morning. Every once in a while, you would get like a group of people who would show up in a morning class that wasn't even put on by a coach, and but that was very inconsistent. And as an INTP, if I do fall off, it is hard to get back on track. So I had to look for a place that at least offered morning classes 3 days a week. I found that, and even better than that, I didn't know there was a gym less than 5 minutes away from my house, which takes the second tip I'm giving you, is that you want to find something local to yourself if you can. This is going to lessen the excuses you have for not going somewhere. A lot of times, if I was home and there was a practice going on in an hour, I would think about the traffic that was going to be blocking me, that I might show up late because of it, or that I just didn't want to sit in traffic or things like that. So having a place that is all back roads, 5 minutes away from my house, makes it a lot easier to get there. And it's first thing in the morning, so I get there even quicker because there's no cars on the road or anything like that. Now, my third tip is is really, I've already talked about it earlier, but it's to become a disciple of something. So you really want to give in to the idea that you can do it on your own. Even if you could, there's a benefit to allowing somebody else to think for you when you first begin starting out. Just the energy, the cognitive energy it takes to be able to think of your own workouts, to think about what you would have to do to set up the environment to be able to do jujitsu takes a lot of energy, and it actually takes away from whatever benefits you are actually trying to receive from whatever you're participating in. So when you become a disciple of something and you have a teacher who's doing this thinking for you, it definitely does become a lot easier to stay committed. I also think as an introverted thinker, you have to make sure that you can communicate well with the teacher that you have. So my coach, I've already typed him after 2 days of jujitsu, and he's an ISTP. So I do think he gets a little more angry when things go wrong, but at the same time, his introverted thinking is very technical. And so when we are conversating about how I should be doing a move, it's very easy for me to understand what he wants, and it's very easy for me to make the corrections. And I do think that having somebody who I know is looking out for my best interest in this development is definitely going to add to the dedication I have to showing up every day and being disciplined. Now, I do want to talk to the people who have, I know that a lot of people have tried and have been in the same boat that I've been in where you quit. And I really do think that a lot of it is just getting into your TE. If you're an introverted thinker, you have to what I'm asking you to do is get into your shadow. Look at the resources, look at what resources are really holding you back, and then use your introverted thinking to decide how you're going to make the changes that you need to make. And that's pretty much all I really had for today. I will take questions for anybody who wants to ask questions, but I know you guys don't really ask questions for some reason. So that's what I have. And like I said, I will be on here quite a bit more. I'm committing to it. In order to be on YouTube more, I am giving up my own independence of my own training. I pretty much given up weightlifting in order to have a coach do a lot of my thinking in the physical world. No matter what, I had to get into the physical world to begin my next path in development, which is what you guys have to do as well. And by finding a way to engage in the physical world without expending all of my thinking in the physical world, I am going to be able to dedicate more of my thoughts to what my actual goal is right now of being on YouTube, making the world a better place through typology and psychology. And yeah, I hope that you guys watching me do this, I hope that I do it right and that it actually helps you guys to begin making a change and impact in your own life, because as introverted thinkers, we can hold ourselves to the highest of standards and we can achieve them. We just kind of have to do it. Anyways, I hope this episode helped you, and I will catch you tomorrow morning. Have a good one, guys.